I'm pretty sure the creators of this movie had a severe case of ornithophobia. Boy and the Heron, released in 2023, is a Studio Ghibli animated feature and is directed by Miyazaki Hajio, who's also behind such films like Castle in the Sky, My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, and Porco Rosso. And because I live in the United States, I watched this film on Max, so I saw the English version of this movie that starred the voices of Robert Pattinson, Luca Padovan, Karen Fukuhara, Gemma Chan, Christian Bale, Mark Hamill, Florence Pugh, Willem Dafoe, and Dave Bautista. And the reason why we're talking about The Boy and the Heron today is because it was a PayPal recommendation and donation from a longtime contributor and supporter on this channel, Dr. Camp. Thank you very much for this recommendation. This was part of your bundle that you sent me at the end of last year. So it looks like you had a couple of animated features in that bundle. I know I just reviewed Your Name last week, which I absolutely love, and I love that animation style. When it comes to Studio Ghibli and the story contents, I think this is the first time I've actually seen a Studio Ghibli film like all the way through that I could understand. I have seen Spirited Away in its entirety, but back in my day when that film came out, we were driving from our high school to Cedar Point for our senior trip. And that's a 4-hour drive, so we had a charter bus. And back on those days, you didn't have iPads or iPhones or little portable... Well, I guess we did have portable DVD players, but no one had them. They were scarce. You had one VHS or DVD player that showed on TV screens all throughout the bus. And because it was a bus completely full of teenagers, you couldn't hear a goddamn thing. So I remember watching it. I don't know what was happening because I couldn't hear anyone and what was going on in the scene. Just a lot of weird imagery. And it was kind of the same for this instance and this watching of this movie for me, except that I was listening to this one. I was just sitting there going, what the hell is going on? But we'll get into it. Thank you very much, Dr. Camp, for the recommendation. If anyone else out there also wants to be like Dr. Camp and help support me and contribute to this channel, you can select the QR code that is in the bottom left corner of your screen right now. Send over your donation of $5 or more with your movie recommendation, and if I have access to it, I will watch it, review it, and give you a little shout out, just like what I did with Dr. Camp here. During World War II, young child Mahito Maki loses his mother in a hospital fire. So Mahito and his father evacuate their home and go to live out in the country with Mahito's sister, Natsuko. And while living there, he encounters a strange gray heron who keeps stalking Mohito and seems to be living in a strange sealed-off tower in the backyard. And the longer that Mohito lives at this place, the gray heron eventually ends up doing more stranger things that teleports Mohito into an alternate dimension filled with magic and talking birds galore. And I meant it in the intro when I said I'm pretty sure the creators of this movie have ornithophobia. This was a nice therapy for them to get past their fears of birds flapping around with butcher knives and bows and arrows and just blades of all kind wanting to, bring you into their treehouse so that they can cut you up and they can eat you. So, Studio Ghibli... I know is very, very popular. Everyone just raves and loves everything that they produce. Not just fans, but professional actors and directors out there. I know Martin Scorsese has complimented this studio and the productions that they put out. And maybe I need to watch some other stories in this film. I actually plan on it. I'm not shutting myself off to this studio or this animation style at all. However, with this being like the first full one that I've watched with audio and with visuals, I wish I was high. I've never been high before, but I feel like I need to enjoy this movie because this film is a trip. That Heron is sprouting a gigantic nose and a man pops out and it's a man in a heron suit. Like, oh god, it is freaky. Like, that stuff will give you nightmares. If I was a kid watching this for the first time, like 5 or 6, and I saw that, legit, I would have nightmares. It's happened to me before with silly animated stuff like this in my life. Now, from what I gather from this film and also Spirited Away, they really focus on stories of young kids or stories of teenagers trying to make sense of the real world around them. So World War II is going around Mojito in this movie, and he just lost his mother in a hospital fire, and he's trying to make sense of that, and he's trying to grieve, he's trying to cope with the loss of the woman that he's loved his entire short life. So the creators of this story are putting this kid through these supernatural alter dimension trials and characters and plot points to help this character of Mojito cope with real life situation. And there's really nothing in here that makes you believe that what happens in here and he goes and meets like the parrot king or something. I know there was an actual name for it, but give me a break here, okay? I was kind of freaked out the entire time. He meets the parrot bird king. And I guess, again, there's nothing in here that says it didn't happen, but I wouldn't put it past the creators to be like, this was all in this kid's head, but through all of these illusions and all of these visions that he was having, he was able to cope and grieve for the loss of his mother. That's my theory on this movie, and I'm sticking to it, and if you disagree, which I'm sure many of you out there are probably going to, and comment on this video, talk about how I don't know shit, and I need to shut my mouth and just stop doing what I'm doing here on YouTube, you know, feel free to. I welcome it. I get it. I know I'm not getting this movie as everyone else has, because all I see is just raving reviews on this movie. For this guy, I'm at a loss. I don't know. All I will say is that I do love the voice cast here when it comes to the English dubbing. You have Robert Pattinson, who is one of the best vocal performers out there that I can think of. He can switch his voice between anything. If you don't read his name on there, you would have no idea that this was Robert Pattinson. I had no idea until I started recording this review. That's how great he is. Christian Bale, you can never go wrong with him. Florence Pugh, who is one of the best actresses working today, and for my money, probably my favorite actress of all time. She's that good. Mark Hamill. I mean, when it comes to animated features, you can't get much better than Mark frickin' Hamill. Willem Dafoe, Dave Bautista shows up in here, and he's like the parrot, I guess not the magic person, but he was the warlord or like first commander. Like, you could definitely tell it's Dave Bautista. I've heard him yell and scream during promos in WWE for almost a decade. So the voice cast here is great, and the animation, of course, is gorgeous. The way that they are able to draw these characters and move them through scenery, and the juxtaposition of the human characters as opposed to the bird characters, and their clashing on screen. It is gorgeous. It's beautiful to look at. It's just in terms of the story, which, you know, is the most important thing that you need for any type of narrative structure when it comes to film, novels, video games, plays, you name it, whatever. You have to have a gripping story. And for me, like the beginning of it, just seeing this kid and seeing this fire in the distance in this hospital and seeing, oh yes, he's going to be dealing with a loss, and all of this chaoticness is beautiful and it's gorgeous. But then we move to the countryside with the pregnant sister of the mother, and once we get there, this thing just becomes weird. There's a lot of miniature old lady maids who keep walking around. They have gigantic noses. And it's creeping me out, y'all. The story, this film, it's just not for me. And I definitely know that this film, this style, has its audience, so I'm not putting you down at all for liking it if you do. I know myself, and I know what I was feeling while watching this movie, and I just wasn't getting it. I'm going to give The Boy and the Heron 2.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I found that if you have a goal, that you might not reach it. But if you don't have one, then you are never disappointed. And I gotta tell you, it feels phenomenal.
So guys, have you seen The Boy and the Heron? What did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, then comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell so you know the next time I release next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.